I supported my wife through law school. Now a top attorney, she told me, "You're not in my league anymore." Days later, I found her in a hotel room with her boss. She laughed. "Grow up. This is how power works." So I contacted her boss's wife with receipts and court filings. During their company gala, security escorted them out. She called me screaming, but I had already left a voice note on her car that said, "My name's Mark. I'm 39, born and raised in Fresno, California. I run a landscaping business I built from scratch. Nothing fancy, but it pays well, and I'm good at it. I married Angie when she was 26 and I was 29. She worked as a legal secretary at the time and told me her dream was to become a lawyer. She was smart, sharp, and had this fire in her that made you believe she could do anything. I loved that about her. When she started studying for the LSATs, I was right there beside her. I made her flashcards. I quizzed her late at night. When she got into UC Davis School of Law, it felt like we made it. Not just her. Both of us. We didn't have much money. I sold my truck, the one I use for my business, just to pay her tuition deposit. I took extra jobs, worked weekends, even cleaned out gutters in 110-degree heat just to keep things running. I cooked every night, did all the laundry, paid the bills. Also, she could study without worrying. She barely had time for anything but books and classes. I understood. I reminded myself that this was temporary, that once she graduated and became a lawyer, we'd finally be able to breathe, maybe get a house, start a family like we talked about. 3 years later, she graduated. I took the day off to watch her walk across that stage. I cried. I'm not ashamed to say that. I was proud of her, and proud of what we'd done together. She landed a job at a high-end firm in Sacramento, the kind where people wore suits that cost more than my monthly truck payments. I remember how excited she was. At first, it felt like things were finally settling into place. But then, things changed. At first, it was small stuff. She started working late. I figured that was just the job. Then she started buying expensive clothes. Louboutins. Blazers that didn't look like they came from any place I could afford. She said it was dressing for success. She started talking differently. Less we, more me. And when I brought it up, she brushed it off. Said I was imagining things. I noticed her phone habits too. Always face down. Password changed. She kept it with her even in the bathroom. I asked if something was going on. She got angry, said I was being controlling. One night, about 2 months ago, we were having dinner. I brought up the idea of kids again, something we'd always said we wanted. She laughed. Not kindly. Just laughed. She said, that was before. I'm not doing diapers and daycare while handling million-dollar cases. I asked, so what happens to us? She sighed and looked me straight in the eye. Mark, you're a good guy, but you're not in my league anymore. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt like it closed up. I just stared at her. She stood up, dumped the rest of her wine, and said, "Grow up. This is how power works." She went out that night. Said it was a client mixer. 3 days later, she told me she was heading to San Francisco for a weekend seminar. She packed a suitcase, kissed me on the cheek like nothing had changed, and left early Friday morning. But something didn't sit right. I couldn't shake the feeling. So I logged into our shared phone account and checked the GPS history. Her phone wasn't anywhere near the seminar hotel. It was at another hotel, a high-end one downtown. I sat there staring at the screen for 20 minutes, just frozen. Then I grabbed my keys and drove. It took me 2.5 hours. The whole drive, I kept thinking, maybe there's a mistake. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't what I think it is. I parked across from the hotel and waited in the car. Around 10 p.m., I saw her. She walked in with a tall man. Older, gray hair, sharp suit. She was laughing, touching his arm. They went up together. I waited 15 minutes and followed. I stood outside their hotel room door and knocked. She opened it. She was wearing a robe. Her face dropped for half a second, then changed. She smirked. "Oh, grow up, Mark," she said. "This is how power works." I didn't say anything. I turned around and walked out. My hands were shaking. I went home and got to work. I went through our phone records, found texts, call logs, photos. I found hotel receipts in our shared bank statements. I put it all together in a nice, clean folder. Then I looked up her boss, Peter Hallstrom, managing partner at her firm, married, 3 kids. His wife's name was Deborah. Took me about 30 minutes to find her Facebook profile. Private, but I found her work email through LinkedIn. I wrote her a message. Hi, Deborah. I'm sorry you have to hear it this way, but I believe you deserve to know. Your husband, Peter, has been having an affair with my wife, Angie. Here's proof. I attached everything. Screenshots, photos, call logs, even a screen recording of texts between Angie and Peter, some of them disgusting. I also submitted everything to the law firm's HR department. Their handbook had a strict no-relationship policy between subordinates and supervisors. I knew that because I'd read it years ago when Angie was applying. I even helped her study for the interview. The company Gala was a month later. I knew they'd be there. It was a black tie thing. Big deal. I showed up in a clean suit, kept to the back of the room. I didn't talk to anyone, just watched. Halfway through dinner, 2 hotel security guards approached Peter and Angie's table. I watched them lean down and speak quietly. Peter's face went pale. Angie looked around like she couldn't believe what was happening. They were escorted out, right in front of the entire firm. Some people clapped. Others looked shocked. Phones were out. Whispers everywhere. I left quietly, went to the parking garage, and found Angie's Audi. I left a note on her windshield. Just a voice recording on a little digital player. You were right, Angie. This is how power works. Later that night, she called. Over and over. Screaming, crying, cursing. I didn't answer. And I wasn't done. After the gala, everything started falling apart for her, not me. I thought she might try to lay low. But no, not Angie. She showed up at my house the next morning uninvited. She was in sweatpants, hair a mess, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep. She stood on the porch and started banging on the door. Mark, open the damn door. I didn't. She banged harder. You ruined my life. You petty, jealous bastard. I waited in the hallway, phone in hand, ready to call the cops if she broke the door. After 5 minutes of screaming and pacing, she slid to the ground and sat there crying. Please, she sobbed. Just talk to me. I opened the door just enough to see her, but not let her in. You slept with your boss, Angie. You humiliated me. And now you want to talk? Her voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I got caught up. I didn't think it would go that far. I stared at her. You told me I wasn't in your league. That's not caught up. That's calculated. She tried to come closer, but I shut the door. A few days later, I started hearing from mutual friends. Her story was that I was emotionally abusive, that I was controlling and manipulative. She spun it like she was trapped in some unhappy marriage, and the affair was her breaking free. I didn't respond. I just let her talk, until I got a call from my mother. Mark, why is Angie saying you used to threaten her? That's when I knew she was trying to flip the script. I went back into our cloud storage. Old texts, videos, even audio messages of her thanking me for supporting her through law school. I put it all in a folder. I added the messages she sent me after I exposed her. The angry ones, the crying ones, the desperate ones. And I got a lawyer. A good one. Turns out, since I'd helped fund her education and she cheated, I had more leverage than I thought. California might be no-fault divorce, but financial misconduct still matters. Especially when there's proof she used joint funds for her little weekend getaways. My lawyer filed for divorce with demands, half of everything, repayment of tuition from our shared accounts, and spousal support. She flipped. She tried to fight it, hired some big downtown attorney. But her reputation was already in the trash. Her firm fired her officially 2 weeks later. Word was, Peter's wife, Deborah, had filed for divorce too. She took the kids and most of the assets. Peter? He resigned from the firm to spend more time with family. I doubt anyone believed it. A week after that, I got a message from someone I didn't expect. One of Angie's old coworkers, Karen. She told me Angie had been sleeping with more than just Peter at the firm, that she'd hooked up with a married associate during her first year. Apparently, this was a pattern. She always had a way of making guys do things for her, Karen said. But you? You were the only one who never asked for anything in return. That hit me hard. I guess I'd always known something was off. But when you love someone, you ignore a lot. I stayed quiet in public. But behind the scenes, I was methodical. My lawyer sent subpoenas. We found out she used our joint credit card to book 4 different hotels over the last year, none related to work. One of them was even in Vegas during a supposed conference. I hadn't gone because she said it wasn't for spouses. Lies. All of it. The worst part? She looked me in the eye for years and said she loved me. It wasn't love. It was convenience. And once she didn't need me, she threw me out like trash. But I wasn't trash. And I wasn't done showing her that. A month passed. Angie went quiet. I figured maybe she'd accepted it. Maybe the divorce was sinking in. My lawyer kept me updated. She was trying to stall, file motions, even accused me of intentional emotional distress. But the judge saw right through it. Then something happened I didn't expect. I got a letter in the mail from the California State Bar. At first, I panicked. I thought maybe I was being investigated somehow. But no. It was addressed to Angie. I opened it anyway. It was a formal notice. They had opened a preliminary ethics review based on an anonymous tip. My guess? Deborah Peters' wife was still swinging. If Angie lost her license, everything she had worked for was done. But here's where it gets even more twisted. 2 weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, this is Jenna. I don't know you, but I think we need to talk. It's about Angie. At first, I ignored it. Thought it was spam. Then she messaged again, sent a screenshot of a conversation with Angie. I used to date her before law school. She told me she was single. She lied. I didn't know she was married until I saw your story on Reddit. I didn't post anything on Reddit. I asked her to send me the link. Sure enough, someone, probably one of Angie's friends, had posted a huge, sympathy-seeking thread in a private group about her abusive ex-husband who destroyed her career out of spite. It was full of lies. The comments were filled with sympathy for her, until Jenna showed up. She commented with receipts, screenshots, dates, said Angie cheated on her too, that she was seeing both of us at the same time before law school. She had no clue I existed until someone mentioned the scandal. I read through the thread for hours. Turns out, I wasn't even her first victim. Angie used people, stepped on them to climb. And now, it was all unraveling. I reached out to Jenna. We talked for hours on the phone. She told me things about Angie I never knew, how she bragged about manipulating people, how she used sex as a tool to get favors, jobs, connections, how she would practice crying in the mirror before meetings. She wasn't just a cheater. She was a master manipulator. I started digging deeper. I remembered one of Angie's mentor retreats a year into her job. She said it was all women. No phones allowed. It was in Napa. I found the resort online. Emailed them, pretending to be confirming details for a group booking. Got the guest list from the manager. Guess who had shared a room with a different male partner that weekend? She lied again. I sent that over to my lawyer, who just said, she really doesn't stop, does she? And still, she had the nerve to try and text me a few days later. I made mistakes, but you didn't have to destroy me. I didn't reply, but I did keep watching, because I knew something else was coming. And I was right. Angie wasn't just in legal trouble. She was in financial trouble, too. Credit card debt in her name shot up. She stopped paying for her apartment in Sacramento. Got evicted. Tried to move back in with her parents in Modesto. They turned her away. I heard she was crashing with a former coworker, sleeping on a couch. The fall was steep, but I still didn't feel finished, because the biggest blow was still coming. A few months later, I got the court date for the final divorce hearing. I showed up in a plain suit. No fanfare. Just me and my lawyer. Angie showed up late. She looked like a ghost of herself, pale, hair messy, wearing a wrinkled suit that didn't fit like it used to. She barely looked at me. The judge already had the files, the photos, the financial records, the statements from Peter's wife, from Jenna, from her former firm. The judge didn't waste time. Mrs. Hallstrom, she had started using her maiden name again. You used joint marital funds to maintain an ongoing affair, and you violated your firm's policies, which led to loss of employment. These are acts of marital misconduct. Angie stared at the floor. My lawyer pushed for spousal support, not for her, but for me. She tried to speak. Your Honor, he's doing this to humiliate me. I made mistakes, but the judge cut her off. You don't seem to understand. You built your career on someone else's back, and then you burned that bridge to the ground. Final ruling. I got the house, half her retirement, and spousal support for 3 years, more than enough for me to recover financially. She got nothing she'd asked for. Outside the courtroom, she tried to speak to me again. Mark, please. I looked her in the eye. She was shaking, desperate, like she'd just realized what she lost. You lied to me, I said. Used me. Made me feel small. She whispered. I thought I could come back. When it was all done, I didn't think you'd go this far. I didn't respond. Just turned and walked away. And that's when I finally felt it. Not pride, not joy, but peace. Quiet, cold peace. She called me again that night. One last message. I still have it saved. I destroyed everything. I know that. I thought you'd always be there. I was wrong. I never replied. Months passed. I rebuilt my business. Bought myself a new truck. Started going out again. Meeting people. Living like I mattered. Not as a tool. Not as her safety net. As for Angie, she applied for reinstatement with the state bar. Got denied. Too many ethics flags. No firm would touch her. Last I heard, she was working customer service at a legal tech company. Mid-shift. Low pay. No benefits. Peter's wife took everything in their divorce. He's teaching part-time at a community college now. No one in Sacramento's legal world wants anything to do with him. Sometimes, people say revenge is poison, that it doesn't fix anything. But they're wrong. Revenge isn't about fixing. It's about truth. About making sure the people who trample others don't walk away clean. I didn't burn her life down. She lit the match. I just handed her the gasoline.